guys, welcome to episode 18 of the Crochet Cakes podcast. I hope that this episode finds you well. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back and sharing a bit of crafty time with me. And if you are a new viewer, then I hope you stick around and enjoy what I have to say. You can find me on various social medias as Crochet Cakes, namely Instagram, YouTube, and Ravelry. Speaking of Ravelry, we do have a Ravelry group for the Crochet Cakes podcast, so go over there, join, introduce yourselves, and just share crafty time with us, because I do love reading all about how you guys are doing, how you got into crafting, who you are, because it just makes it all more real, doesn't it? So yeah, I hope these past few weeks have treated you well and that you've gotten a lot of crafty time in and you've been able to share in what you love. If you just like knitting all the time, I hope you've got a lot of knitting done. I hope if you've worked, I hope work has treated you well. For me, it got decidedly more hectic and real. It's been a tough couple of weeks, not just in work, but I think the general feeling of restlessness and fear, because to be honest, I am afraid of what's coming. I'm afraid of what the future might bring. And yes, speaking politically, I won't get too much into that because this is a crafting podcast, but I just feel that I have to share a bit with you guys about what's been going on. And even though I won't go into too much detail, I think you all know what I'm referring to. And I want to take this opportunity to just say how thankful I am to be part of this great crafting community, a place where no matter your religious views, your political views, political affiliations, your general views on society and life, we can just come together and craft and share our passion for crafting with one another. And just being able to share one thing brings us closer together. And at times like this, where we feel it's kind of the brink of lunacy, I think it's important to remember that there are things that unite us, you know? And we can focus on a lot of things that make us different. But if we just focus on one thing that brings us together, I think that we can do great things. And that is one of the many reasons why I'm so thankful that I was welcomed into this crafting community and that I get to share my joy of crafting with all of you, because I think that just opens the space for a lot of love to go around. And I believe we all have a lot of love to give. And speaking of love, you will probably, if you follow me on Instagram, have seen a post about EYF. Maybe, maybe not. Yes, I'm going to the Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and if you don't know what that is, I think the name is pretty self-explanatory. It's a yarn festival held in Edinburgh, Scotland, the 10th and 11th of March 2017. We are 1 month away almost from the EYF, and I am so excited. I'm going to be meeting up with all of my podcasting friends, and if you, dear darling viewer, are going to be at EYF, drop me a line on YouTube, Ravelry, Instagram. Just let me know. I would very much like it if you came up and said hi. I don't think I know that Faye from the Crochet Circle podcast is trying to organize a crochet podcaster meetup around 2 p.m. if I'm not mistaken. And I'll give you more details on that when I have them. But I think it's just great, a great opportunity to meet you guys, and just, you know, share our love of crafting in real life. And one other thing, just fair warning. If you do come up to me, just, you know, be aware that you will be receiving hugs. I love to give hugs, and when I'm excited, I hug a lot. So fair warning, Catherine I'm going to be giving you a lot of hugs because actually I am meeting up with Catherine over there. Emma, if you go, lots of hugs from me, and just, yeah, prepare to be hugged. That is all I'm saying. Having just said all of that, I think it's time to address the elephant in the room. And the keen-eyed among you will notice that I am wearing a piece of crochet jewelry that I have never worn before. In addition to that, I had never made it before. I made this, I think right after the podcast on 2 weeks ago, right after the podcast. It's actually a pattern by Emma from Potter and Bloom. It's her 3D flower tutorial, and I absolutely love it. It's just easy to follow. She explains very well, and she doesn't show you how to make the necklace. She shows you how to make the flowers, but you know, she said she just stitched it together and then she did a chain to be the chain. So that is what I did. I'll just give you a closer look for a second. Oh yeah. And if you've watched my podcast for a while, you will notice that this is the same green that I used in my Lime Rita sweater. It's what I had left over. I still have a full skein left over. This is some scrap that I have left over, and I love the combination of the blue and the green. Now the green, I'm sorry, not the green. The blue is something that I received in my Christmas swap parcel. If you remember, I participated in a Christmas exchange that was hosted by Make.E, who is Emily. She's Make.E on Instagram. Her real name is Emily. And she prepared the most beautiful parcel for me. And this was one of the things she included. This is a Wool and the Gang yarn. I have never ever worked with Wool and the Gang yarn. This is Billie Jean yarn. It is 20% upcycled denim, 80% upcycled raw cotton. So it's sustainable, chemical free, dye free, and it just went great. It is splitty as cotton tends to be, so it doesn't actually have a lot of twist in it, but I'm used to that, so I didn't really mind it so much. I used a 4mm crochet hook, and I went a bit green there, didn't I? This is also part of a hook kit that Emily included in the parcel. So overall, I'm super happy with this. I actually spent about 45 minutes picking out my color combinations, which is kind of hilarious if you consider it takes about 15 minutes to make it. But in the end, I was happy with my color combinations, and I think that's the most important thing, isn't it? And if you haven't checked out Emma's tutorials, I encourage you to do that as well. I've spoken about her podcast previously, but Potter and Bloom on YouTube podcast, amazing crochet knitting podcast. She always makes me laugh. And yeah, it's a great, fast, quick project if you've got a birthday coming up or something. It's just, I love it. There's nothing else to say. And speaking of loves and crochets, I think it's time I show you what I'm hooked on, because in the previous podcast, I wasn't actually hooked on anything. I actually had finished all of my projects and I hadn't started anything new. But this week I have started 2 new crochet projects to share with you. And the first, hi, yes, it's green. It is green. And this is a new shawl that I am making. It's a paid for pattern on Ravelry. Yes, I totally forgot the name. I'm blanking on the name of the designer as well as the pattern. I believe her name started with M, and it was French. I will, of course, put it down here so you can follow along with what I'm saying, and I will insert a picture of the finished shawl so you can see what it looks like. Not my finished shawl, the one included in the project page, of course. And It's just a beautiful shawl. It's got a solid crochet panel and then some lace edging at the bottom. It's a 2 skein fingering weight project, and I do have 2 skeins of this gorgeous yarn. This is of course a Harry Potter inspired colorway, and it is Troll Bogies on Kayleen's Sparkle Sock base. It's a 2-ply 75% superwash merino nylon, 20% nylon, 5% stellina. And in case you're not familiar with it, this is Kayleen's yarn brand. She comes up with amazing, amazing Harry Potter colorways and other colorways, but my favorite are the Harry Potter colorways. Not gonna lie there, guys. And is this sparkle showing up? Actually, it's appearing more apple green than it is. It's a bit more acidy green than it is apple green. But I'm loving working on this. It's I don't actually mind that it's single crochets. It does grow slowly, but I'm very happy with it. So just gonna, you know, keep on working on that, moseying along. And I'm using just a size G hook to crochet with this. The one thing I do like is when you buy the pattern, she does provide you details to not alter the pattern, but to make it bigger. And I'm very excited for that because I actually want a shawl that I can wrap myself up in for, you know, my visit to Scotland. And this is living in my lovely superheroes bag. Well, super woman bag. Come on, woman. So the other crochet project I've been working on, I actually started it quite recently, and it was something that just popped into my mind, you know, into my brain because, you know, I'm gonna be cold in Scotland. It doesn't matter if it's 40 degrees, I am going to be cold. So there's a lot of wool in this house, and I thought what better opportunity to use it than to try and make something to go to Scotland in. So this happened. Yeah. Oh my god, it just smells wonderful. This is the beginnings of a crochet shirt or sweater. And the pattern is a crochet adult sweater by Bob Wilson 123. You can find a tutorial for this sweater on YouTube. You can find the pattern on her page, and I think you can also find it on Ravelry. It is a very easy, awesome beginner pattern, and she actually writes the pattern for worsted or DK weight. I'm using fingering weight because I don't know if you notice what this is, but I'll just give you a closer look. It's just beautiful. This is Catherine's yarn. This is the Autumn Leaves colorway that I had purchased previously, and Catherine also gifted me a skein of the same yarn. So I've got 2 skeins of the Autumn Leaves colorway, and I'm gonna try and make a crocheted shirt out of them. So far, it's a free pattern, so there's no harm in me talking about it. So far, I am just on the yoke of the pattern. Believe I'm almost at the point where I connect them to actually start working on the body. And since I've used this much of the first skein, 100 grams, 400 yards, what I thought I was going to do is kind of take inspiration from my chocolate frog sweater and crochet the body of the shirt, but do a knit rib and knitted neckline and a knitted rib for my sleeves. And I'm gonna try and make this a cropped sweater, not as cropped as the chocolate frog sweater, a little bit longer. And I hope I have enough, but we shall see. And I also want it to be at least 3/4 inch sleeves. Really banking on having enough because the chocolate frog sweater took me 2 skeins of sport weight yarn. So I'm hoping 2 skeins of fingering weight yarn will be enough to make the body of the shirt and the rib. This is just a double crochet, and if you've never made a crochet garment, I encourage you to make this one. It's really simple. And it's actually the first crochet garment I ever made. Yeah, so this was the garment that inspired me to just crochet all the garments possible. I do have some other plans for it. I'm adapting the pattern slightly, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm using a 3.75 millimeter crochet hook for the yoke of the sweater, and for the body I want it to be a bit of a tighter fit, so I'm going to be using a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook, and hopefully that will also help in me having enough yarn. If I don't, I actually do have a plan. It would be using a contrasting, well, not contrasting, a matching color, like mustardy color, for the rib in the body, the neckline, and the cuffs. I wouldn't like to do that because even though Catherine's yarn is fingering weight, since it's woolen spun, it's actually, I feel like a bouncier, thicker fingering weight yarn, and it just, I feel it's sturdier than, for example, a fingering weight superwash merino, which has been worsted spun. And I was looking all over the place for this, and I actually found it inside the Harry Potter bag where this project has been living in, and it's Catherine's card. So you will find all her information. If you haven't checked out her yarn, I don't know if you can check it out right now because she had a 40% off sale on all her yarn, and yeah, I bought yarn, but I only allowed myself one skein. I regretted it. I mean, allowing myself only the one skein. I wanted more. Any hoozles, this is not acquisitions, this is works in progress, what I'm hooked on. And so, yeah, the other slight thing I wanted to mention is that, of course, Catherine's yarn is ethically produced. This is in her Romney Lamb's Wool Shetland blend, which I absolutely love. I don't find it so scratchy. Like, if I scratch against it, then I find it a little bit annoying, but not too much. It wouldn't impede me wearing a garment, for example, which is why I'm using to make it. And I am super happy with how that project is going along. I've been wanting to work on it all the time, which is kind of problematic because I do have other things that I've just been dying to get off the needles. Because, you guessed it, it's time for snail knitting. And boy, has it been snail knitting these past couple of weeks. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the super snail project. And this is my socks. This is first pair of socks I'm knitting for myself, and I want to hopefully have one pair of finished socks to take with me to Scotland. Now, the reason these were a bit abandoned was because I was terrified of starting the Fish Lips Kiss Heel. Well, I did the Fish Lips Kiss Heel. It was not that big of a deal, actually. And I actually quite like that I started the Fish Lips Kiss Heel on this brown area, so it just took me straight to the gray, and you can see that the two grays connect here, and then it's a little bit of yellow, some white, and it actually kind of connects with these gray parts right there. And then we start again with the red here. So I actually don't mind that. I liked it a lot. I can't believe I actually managed to keep such a consistent pattern while knitting on these. I am knitting them on 9-inch circular needles, which is my preferred method of knitting socks right now, even though knitting socks, I'm not really in a sock knitting mood, which has been problematic, but I'm determined to at least have a pair of socks. Ambitiously, I would like 2 pairs of socks, but let's face it, we're already in February. I'm barely gonna finish one sock. And the yarn is, of course, West Yorkshire Spinners in their Goldfinch colorway, and I absolutely love this colorway. It actually reminds me a bit of Harry Potter. I feel like this color looks like Gryffindor and the white reminds me of Hedwig. So I've called these socks my Hedwig Gets Sorted into Gryffindor socks. And actually that's the only thing that's been keeping me motivated to work on them. I'm already on the foot and I was so determined to actually have a half-finished object for this episode that I think I knit this in a day. Yeah. I was very I'm gonna get this done. And that is not the only knitted project I've been working on. I showed you this one previously as well. It's been living in my awesome puppies bag. Now, the reason this one has been put aside, I'll get into in a little bit. This is my first ever knitted garment. And this is actually an Andy Satterlund pattern. And I'm hopefully going to be able to finish it in time for Scotland and to enter it in the Andy Satalong that Katie has been hosting. So when you last left me, I was only doing the back. I've finished the back piece, I've connected it, did the little shoulder straps, connected it to the front, and now I am officially working in the round. The reason that I haven't worked on this more is no other reason than I hate the cable. These are my Clover Takumi bamboo needles. I still love them. I still love all my other Takumi bamboo needles that I have. My 9-inch circulars are Clover Takumi, but the cable is a 36-inch cable, and look at that. All this is left over. If I had a shorter cable, I would still be working on this because I just don't find it enjoyable stretching the stitches so much, and then your cable just kind of contorts in and on itself, and I find it so annoying. And that really saddens me because I love working on this project. It's super fun, and now that I'm actually working in the round, I feel like I can power through and perhaps have a finished knitted sweater to wear to EYF. And yeah. That's so disappointing. The yarn I'm using is Ella Ray. Oh, excuse me, the ball band fell on the floor. The yarn I'm using is Ella Ray Classic, and it's 100% wool into the 3138 dye lot. Yeah, no idea what that means, but I'll probably just pick these up because by the time that a new pair of needles gets here, it'll probably be March, and then I will definitely not be able to wear my Andy Satterlund sweater. And I'm also planning on entering this in the Andy Satalong, hosted by Katie from Inside Number 23. You have until the end of March to knit an Andy Satterlund garment. And I find that great because Andy Satterlund, most of her patterns are either DK or worsted. She even has 2 Aran weight patterns, which I love, but I am not at that level of knitting that I can make a Chuck sweater, for example. So those are all the projects that I have to share with you this week, and that just moves us on to something that I said was not going to happen. And that is stash enhancements, acquisitions, yarn buying, however you want to call it. Because if you remember, I had expressed an intention of going on a yarn bound so that I would use the yarn that I have already in stash. Well, that didn't happen, as I previously mentioned, but it got a bit worse along the line. And in addition to that, since I'm going to be going to EYF, and it's even more exciting, my birthday's in March, the 12th of March to be exact, and I'm going to be in Edinburgh, Scotland for that time. I'm going to be having a ball with Catherine and all the other lovely ladies or men that I'm going to meet over there in the crafting EYF world. And well, let's see. vacations plus birthday is gonna equal yarn buying. I'm gonna try to give myself a budget to not go over it, but yeah. Without further ado, let me actually show you how my yarn band got broken. So, the first yarny lovely acquisition that I bought was this. And I had already mentioned this previously, but I got it. And this is the Enchanted Forest mini skein from Black Elephant. It's a hand-dyed yarn by Petra, all the way from the UK, and it actually got here super fast. Etsy said it was going to get here the 2nd of February. It got here not this past week, the previous week, and I could not be more thrilled with this yarn. I'm just kicking myself for only buying one mini skein. I should have bought two, but not only did Petra include the lovely mini skein, she also included some other pieces. Sorry. And it all smelled delicious because she included a lavender satchel in with my yarn. So it smelled extra wonderful when it got here. And she also very kindly included, look at her logo, isn't her logo just cute? A set of buttons. Yeah, little wooden buttons that I absolutely love. They say, can I, yeah, that's held up correctly. They say handmade. Can you guys see that? Handmade. And I've got one in yellow, one in green, and then these also say handmade. They're all wooden, and I got a cute little sugar skull as well. And she also made a little stitch marker. And I absolutely love everything she included in my parcel. I mean, the yarn was amazing, but not only was the yarn amazing, can I just, yeah. But she included so many wonderful things. A little thank you card, and this is her information right here. If you're interested, I will also put it on the show notes, which can be found in the Crochet Cakes podcast Ravelry group, as I previously mentioned. So the reason I bought this, of course, because it's gorgeous. Emma talked about it in her podcast, but I was like, it's a mini skein. That doesn't really count against my yarn band. It's mini. And then, of course, Kayleen came up with a self-striping Harry Potter colorway. Yeah. I had purchases the last time I podcasted, but it hadn't arrived. It arrived 3 days later. So this is Narcissa Malfoy in Kayleen's Everyday Sock Base, which is just 75-25 superwash merino nylon, and I remembered to ask for it caked up this time. Yeah, so this is Narcissa Malfoy, and if you're interested in the why Kayleen chose the colors, she does talk about that in the previous podcast that she made, because it's a very pale blonde. It looks white and black, but it's actually a very pale blonde with some subtle hints of deeper yellows and pinks into it. And Kayleen does give a full explanation of why she chose those colors. And yeah, so she also made Bellatrix, and I never thought I would say this, but I need Bellatrix. Yeah, that yarn was beautiful. They're 2 stripes self-striping yarn. So yay, Harry Potter yarn. And, you know, as I mentioned, Catherine had a sale, 40% off her yarn, and I was like, okay, you already bought Kayleen, you already bought that mini skein, you're only allowed to buy 1 skein of Catherine's yarn. And that was hard. That was hard. There were so many colors that just looked beautiful. And, you know, sorry about that. I'm convinced that those pictures didn't even do the yarns that she dyes up justice, because there were a couple of them that I was like, oh, they look pretty, but I'm not sure about the colors. And let me just give you a little sneak peek. Mom, she bought a lot. She bought a lot. A lot. So when all those colors arrived, I was like, oh, I should have bought that. It's great. I should have bought that. That's great. And the only reason that my choice was made a tiny bit easier was because the color I'd been kind of talking myself out of buying, because I had it in my cart forever and I've been meaning to buy it, but you know, Yarn Man. It was Plush and Lush, and when I went to purchase 2 skeins, the Plush and Lush wasn't there anymore, so I just bought this one. And not just bought, this is a beautiful colorway. It's just gorgeous. This is Bare Earth, and this base is actually different to her Romney Lamb's Wool Shetland blend base. This is, oh my god, this base, it has British Rabbit Angora, and it's just, it's all soft and it's beautiful, and as always it just smells heavenly, and I can't wait to actually get started on this, get started working on this. It's not 100% Rabbit Angora, guys. There's Romney Lamb's Wool Angora and BFL. That's the blend. Lamb's Wool, British Rabbit Angora, and BFL. So it's a beautiful, beautiful skein. It's called Bare Earth. Can you see Catherine's new label? I just love this vellum paper. And the skein, I love the skein as well. I believe Catherine crocheted a pair of socks in this colorway. I think I'm going to knit a pair of socks in this colorway. I don't know. I don't know. It's just beautiful and gorgeous, and I love it. And the reason I couldn't buy Plush and Lush was because Mom bought it. Yeah. Talk about getting carjacked by your own mother. Goodness. But at least it's in a happy home, so I can't fault her for that. Those are all the Yarny acquisitions that I've had so far, because I am saving all my money for Edinburgh Yarn Festival. Yeah, that is me saving my money for the Edinburgh Yarn Festival and the upcoming Edinburgh trip, which I'm super, super excited about. I'm toning down my excitement, because if not, I would be just jumping up and down, up and down, up and down. As soon as I had bought my plane tickets and my hotel in Edinburgh, I contacted Catherine and I was like, oh, and she's like, oh, well, we get there the 9th too, but later than you, so we should meet up and do a crafting crochet night, a hook it night, because the knit night for the EYF is actually full. So if you'd be interested in joining us and you're going to be around Edinburgh for the 9th, then let us know. Contact either me or Catherine. She's at Crafternoon Treats on Instagram. And let us know if you'd be interested in joining us for a hook night. And if you know of a venue in Edinburgh that would be great for hosting it, then also let us know. I talked to Faye from the Crochet Circle podcast. Hi, Faye. And she said that Edinburgh is pretty busy on Thursday nights. So we shall see what we come up with, and I'll give you more details on that later. The other thing that arrived in the mail this week has nothing to do with yarn, but I was super, super excited. This was the book that I ordered from the UK, even though it's in the States now, but let's face it, this cover is 100 times better than the cover that was released for the States. I actually started reading it last night before I fell asleep, and I think I got to page 15. Nope, I got to page 16, and I absolutely already love this book. I love it. Really, really love this book. And it's just, up to now, it's really well written. It smells new, and like it crossed an ocean to get here. It's a wealth of Danish knowledge. So this is the little book of Hege. Emma kindly corrected me, and so yeah, I can't wait to keep on reading this book, and I'll let you know what I think after I've read more about it. And the other thing that I wanted to mention before we end this week's podcast is something that I hinted to at the beginning, and that is that we're already on February. Today is the 4th of February to be exact, which means it's 10 days till Valentine's Day, and that means we've got a Valentine's Day special coming up with my mom. So in case you've missed her on the podcast, she will be back for this special, and it'll be I think it'll be a hefty one. We've got a lot of things we want to talk to you about, and so yeah, you will actually get a bonus episode in February. So that is all I have to share with you guys this week. I hope you've enjoyed the episode, and please comment and subscribe if you've liked and you want to keep being updated about all the crafty things I've been doing. Thank you so much to all the new subscribers. We've hit 400 subscribers, if you can believe it. And thank you all who have joined the Ravelry group. So that's it for me this week in Puerto Rico. I just wish you guys a very, very happy crafting week. Bye!